Colin, before we get started, there was a question for VPA that a couple of freshman parents, it sounded like they had regarding first or second choice. When will they find out? And
Okay.
Again, if they ask that again, just say, when schedules go out in mid-July, then you'll know. But right now we're building a master schedule, and it's possible that you may not get,
Sure.
that we asked you to pick two
Okay.
fine arts choices, just so that if you don't get one, you hopefully get the other. Yeah.
That sounds good. Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Welcome. Mr. Bertrand, we were just talking about my hat. The BSN shop is open. I believe you can get one in there. There might be, we'll make it an option. We'll definitely put it up there somewhere, but you can get this hat that we gave to all of our seniors today, which was really cool. So we've got 3 more minutes. We'll let it fill up a little bit more as people come on over. Sorry, it looks like I may have, going host to host, cut off the VPA chat. If you have questions, now you know a couple of the wonderful faces that you can reach out to. I know Leah is very responsive. She can get back to you on overarching stuff, but about drama in particular, Mr. Trafton is a great resource. And then Mr. Cargile, he wants everybody to play an instrument. So if you have any questions, he'll be happy to answer those. And then if you do have any, you can always email me or Elizabeth Sands, who's popped on a couple of times. And we'll make sure that if they're good for the larger group, we can answer those questions on our Class of 2024 welcome page at the end of this whole. And we'll point you guys in the right directions to answer some of the FAQs and the big questions that might be beneficial to the whole group. Awesome. We're still kind of moving a little bit. Let me go here and make sure got everybody in the right spot. So we're almost there. It was a hot one today. It was a pool day today. Did it get to 100 degrees? It was hot.
I don't know if it got to 100.
It was.
I didn't go outside except to get the mail. So.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, it is just about 6:40 as some of the folks come trickling in here. We've got 81 folks coming in. I'll start with introduction so we can make use of all of the wonderful time that we have. Welcome to everybody that is here from the last session. Great conversations about visual and performing arts. There's some wonderful people to get to know, and your sons will get to know well over the time. Just like this person right here, our AP Assistant Principal for Academics, Colin O'Connor, one of the smartest guys that I know. He is here to talk about academics and next year's academics at large. We're still, like all things, we're working on a lot, and I know Colin's working very hard. I've seen some of the spreadsheets and things that you guys are coming up with to create a safe and wonderful learning environment for all of our students next year. So thank you and welcome to session 2 of day 2. And again, without further ado, I feel like a game show host. That's my send off. I'll pass it over to you, Colin. Welcome, Colin.
Thanks, Matthew. Thank you. Yes, hi everybody. My name is Colin O'Connor. I am the incoming Assistant Principal for Academics. Finishing out my term as English Department Chair, Director of Curriculum Development, and a teacher. And I'll continue to be in the classroom with one class next year. So it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. Pardon my maybe bizarre Zoom behavior. This is my first time doing it as a webinar, so I can't see anyone's face, which is different, very different from when we were doing this in the 4th quarter doing distance learning. I got to see my students' faces, and faculty meetings, I get to see faces. So I'll try my best to keep an eye on the Q&A box. I might ask either Matthew or Jenny or Fadia to help me in case there are questions there that are pertinent to what I'm talking about as I'm going through. I don't have a deck of slides for this, mostly because there's not a whole lot of dense information here, just kind of talking a little bit about procedures, what you can expect in the first weeks or months of school in terms of the academic experience that your sons are going to have. Unfortunately, as you probably heard as a bit of a refrain from other presenters so far in this series, there are still some questions that are unresolved for what school is going to look like in the fall. We're working hard, practically around the clock behind the scenes in multiple subcommittees, working on different aspects of how we're going to return to campus in August. And as those plans get finalized, we'll be sending them out. Elizabeth Sands, our Director of Communications, and Principal and President are also doing a good job of keeping all of our families up to date with decisions as they're being made. So thank you for your patience in this very fluid time. So I'll start by just saying that I'm really excited that you're sending your sons to spend 4 years in our classrooms with our amazing faculty and staff. I trust that you'll find our faculty and staff to be incredibly knowledgeable in their subject matter, charismatic and caring for their students. One of the phrases that you're likely to hear a lot is the phrase cura personalis, which means the care for the person. It's a Latin phrase that's commonly used in Jesuit circles. And that means, yes, that your son's teachers will know him, they'll care about him, both as a person and also as a student, as someone who is coming to learn in their particular discipline. I think that's one of the hallmarks of the education that we offer, is that students' teachers take great pride in their students' growth from their freshman year through their senior year, so that when we come to the moment of graduation and we watch the students cross the stage and hear their names read, there's a swelling of pride in the members of the faculty, having seen the growth of each of those 250 or so graduates that they knew at some point along their academic journey. At the beginning of your academic journey, you're probably wondering, when are we going to see our schedules? Our final schedules are usually out mid-July, but this particular year, with a number of things still being discussed and unresolved in terms of how the schedule is going to look, I would expect those later in July. And when you do get your schedule, there are likely a few questions that you're going to have. The first thing is, if you see something that you think is wrong, you think is an actual error. If you find an error made on your schedule, make sure you reach out to either Margie Wagner, myself, or to David Zelke, the Director of Scheduling. And we'll work to identify whether or not that is in fact an error, and then make that correction. And then there are some things that you may wish to change, or that you have a request about a particular placement. Typically, when schedules go out in the summer, there's a 2-week window, 1.5 to 2 week window, where you can make online schedule change requests. This particular year, it's not likely that we're going to be able to entertain as many requests as we have been able to in the past. So just keep an eye out for the language that comes with the schedule that guides you through that particular process. And then there's also a window for potential changes to schedules when we get back to campus. But we aren't going to be fielding requests for schedule changes all through the summer. So keep an eye out for whether or not there's a time period when you can make those online requests, and then you may have to wait until the start of school. If you're looking at your student's schedule and you see a designation like XL, that stands for accelerated. That is the first step in our kind of honors and AP track. So there are freshman classes and some sophomore classes that don't have an honors designation from the UC, which gives us, kind of our course approval. And it also is not an AP class, but it is an in-house designation that this is an honors level type class. It does come with an honors GPA boost for their in-house GPA calculation. Sophomores and above may have access to honors level classes. Some freshmen may test into an honors level class, say in math. Freshmen typically don't take AP classes because those are later in the series of courses that are available to students in a particular discipline. And AP courses are designated by the College Board themselves. So that means we don't get to just kind of slap the AP designation on any old course. Those courses are submitted, the syllabi are submitted by our teachers to the College Board for approval every year. The teachers are trained by College Board trainers in their particular discipline. And so maybe students can expect to have access to an AP course starting their sophomore year in some departments, and then definitely in their junior and senior year in many of our departments. So if you're wondering about those three designations, Excel, Honors, and AP, they do kind of have a linear progression where the youngest students will have access to maybe an Excel level course, and then an Honors, and then an AP towards the end of that particular track. One thing that I'll point out now, and I'll say it again when I get to the kind of what happens when we get ready for next year, which is maybe mind-boggling for you all, just like it's mind-boggling for me to think about anything other than the immediate moment or the fall. But for students who are going to be rising sophomores and continuing on in their time at Jesuit, we don't track, which means we don't lock students out of the next level course. There are different potential grade prerequisites, but a student who's in a regular level course will still be able to either request a next level course, a higher level course for his following year, or appeal for that particular placement. So that's one thing you can look forward to is maybe your son doesn't have an Excel class right now, and maybe he doesn't even want an Excel class right now, but just know that that is not a decision that he needs to make now or that the family needs to make now because they're afraid that that will prevent him from some future success in those higher level courses. Also, towards the beginning of the school year, during the first week of school when we're doing our orientations and things, you will, as parents, receive access to PowerSchool. PowerSchool is our learning management system that tracks, and it's also the student data and information system that we use on the academic side of the school. So that is where you will be able to check on attendance for your students, and then also for their grades and progress in all of their courses. So it's really, really important that when you see that PowerSchool code and join information, that you follow the steps and create that account and link it up with your son, because that's going to be a crucial way to access teachers' emails and to be able to track your son's performance and growth throughout the semester. Once you are kind of in the PowerSchool system, you'll be able to see the names of his teachers, just like you saw on the schedule. And in case there's anything that changes, that automatically changes in PowerSchool. So the paper becomes kind of obsolete at that point, and you want to check PowerSchool for all things. In the case of having a question about your son's academic experience, we just ask that you observe, a standard process of asking people at the particular levels. So the first thing to do when you have a question about a class or an assignment or something is to ask your son and make sure that you're both understanding the scenario and the situation the same way. And then following that, to reach out to his teacher directly. And if there's something that breaks down in the line of communication with the teacher, then the next step would be to reach out to the chair for that particular department. The list and the names of the department chairs can be found on the school website. If you're still feeling like there's not a resolution or you're not, someone forwards you on, they're going to forward you on most likely to me, to the AP for academics. So at that point, then as assistant principal, I'll be able to pick up the ball and try to help. There's a couple reasons for this particular, progression, but one is really, even if you were to come straight to me, I'm going to have to go back and do that particular progression and figure out what was going on and talk to the teacher and talk to the department chair and then be able to join in on the conversation, because I'm not in the classroom every day with your son and his teacher. So just keep that in mind as you have questions that come up for individual classes throughout the school year. Counselors are also a great resource kind of all throughout that particular process. So Counselors, our counseling staff is fantastic at helping to identify whether or not students are experiencing issues in more than one of their classes. And that's often when a counselor might intervene and set up a meeting with several teachers, a student study team, or any number of other options, helping students return to campus after an illness or something like that. Counselors are a crucial component in that line of communication. Some key things to expect for fall semester in terms of dates. There is a drop deadline, and it is really early in the semester. This is not so much of an issue for freshmen because freshmen don't have as many options and choices in their classes, but pay attention when you see the drop deadline on the school calendar to make sure that if you are looking to drop a class, it needs to be done before then. And all drops are going to be determined and administered by their particular counselor. We're also going to have back to school night in some fashion, I imagine. It's probably not going to look like what you may have expected in the past. But I would expect early in the semester, really in those first few weeks, to have some sort of opportunity to get to see and understand a little bit of what your son's teachers are expecting of them and kind of how they're going to be running their classes. The calendar will also have the first quarter grade checkpoint. That means that's when quarter grades will be finalized and then posted through PowerSchool. Quarter grades are official, not necessarily for external reporting. They're official for internal reasons. They're an important checkpoint in the school year. And then we will also host parent-teacher conferences of some kind where students who may be struggling in a particular class are encouraged to have their parents reach out to the teacher, set up an appointment, and talk through a plan to help their son get back on track. And then, as I mentioned, before we know it, it'll be early spring semester after Christmas, and we will start gearing up the machine for course selection for the following school year. It happens pretty early. So January, February, we'll be releasing the school catalog. You'll be checking prerequisites for his next classes. And then he'll be meeting with his counselor and filling out his course request lists to be a rising sophomore. We'll pump the brakes a little bit though. And just think freshman year, in the fall, he'll be walking on campus, he'll be meeting his teachers, he'll be meeting his peers. Yeah, the environment is gonna feel a little bit different than it may have in the past. But I think I can speak for myself, for a number of my peers that I've been working with in planning a return to campus, and then also having spoken to students that I taught last year and other students in different conversations throughout this summer. Everyone wants to be back on campus. Everyone wants to be seeing each other, having that social experience of school. And so I think, I hope you can feel that sense of excitement that you felt when you chose Jesuit last spring, and that your son and you are feeling excited about walking into our classrooms in the fall. At this point, I will throw it to questions.
Great stuff. Then this, let me go to my video, let me get on here. And this coming from another alumni, Colin 04.
Oh yes, yeah, class of 04.
Class of 05. So we were around, it's what, 16 years ago now on campus. So excited to have everybody on and be back into that Jesuit we know and love. We do have a question here. Well, we have one. It's 85 degrees in Nashville. That's fantastic. It was hotter here. Welcome to Sacramento. We have here, will our schedules be changed several times throughout the year, or will it be the same for the whole year?
So no, the school schedule will stay the same, or the student schedules will stay the same for the duration of the year, unless they have a one semester class, like Theology 1 is a one semester class. So in one semester, he'll have Theology 1, and then in another semester, he'll have a different class, or he'll have a flex. So that's the only thing that will change. Students won't change for their year-long courses. They won't change their period assignment or their teacher assignment.
Awesome.
Real quick, someone just jumped on to ask. They had internet trouble and missed when I said schedules would be out. We would normally expect them in the middle of July, but we're kind of guesstimating that end of July is a lot closer to when we're going to be this year, because we have still a few things to resolve and the master schedule has not been built yet.
Awesome. Thanks for asking that again.
Yeah.
Are there school site tutoring options for classes?
Sure. So we have a peer tutoring program, which is run by one of our members of the faculty, and also is kind of, it's a peer tutoring program. So it's staffed by students from the CSF, which is California Scholastic Federation. And it is not really sure what that's going to look like this year, just because we're, rethinking spaces like the library where the CSF tutors would have met with a lot of their peers who were seeking that kind of tutoring assistance. But peer tutoring is an option. And oftentimes peer tutoring is something that students who maybe didn't think that they need it will find that a teacher is recommending that they go to the peer tutoring center and link up with a student that teacher knows will be a good fit and good help for them. Or a counselor will suggest that the student start reporting to peer tutoring a couple times a week. In the past, those, and hopefully again in the future, those were offered at lunch, and those were also offered on occasion during a student's flex period. There are also many of our teachers who do, offer all kinds of outside of class assistance to their students, not necessarily in the form of one-on-one tutoring, but having test corrections, meetings at lunch, after school, holding office hours throughout the week as they're able to during their supervision time or after school. So those are some of the options. There's also our Academic Support Center, which is run by the director, Carol Rose, who is a longtime member of the staff at Jesuit and has been a counselor and has been a teacher, and is the one who works most closely with students who are incoming, who have formal documentation of a learning difference. So they are provided some extra levels of supports and interventions in the classroom, and then also sometimes outside of the classroom through the Academic Support Center. And so if you have a student who is coming to Jesuit and you know that he's received those kinds of formal supports in his previous school, you have formal documentation to share. If you have not shared that with our registrar, Debbie Case, please do so as soon as you can, so that we can pass that information on to Mrs. Rose, and we can start making plans for having some onboarding meetings to make sure families get to meet her, talk through the learning plan for your son. So again, that's the Academic Support Center, which provides those kind of formal supports for the students with formal learning difference documentation. Let's see. We have another question here that says, you mentioned counselors a couple times. Will students be assigned to specific counselors? And if so, when will they meet each other? So yes, we have counselors on our staff. There are 5 full-time counselors. There are comprehensive counselors. This year, we're adding a 6th, who's also going to be teaching a class and working with a small subset of the freshman class in the Magis program. And those counselors will have the same students all 4 years. So they'll follow the counselor all 4 years. And they work through a progression of all kinds of information. They talk about 4-year plans, and they also work on making sure that students are feeling welcome and kind of acclimating to the school and the social environment. We also have a wellness counselor on staff as well, who works with students, in all 4 years, depending on their level of need. And usually those counselors will meet their students during the orientation. We're still kind of trying to figure out what orientation is going to look like this year, but definitely some introduction to the counselors so they at least know who their counselor is and can get to meet them. That's definitely a part of our planning process. Counselors will meet individually with students a couple times every year, but then also in larger group settings. So they'll take a class of 25 or 30 of their freshmen and talk to them in a small group setting, and then they'll kind of rotate through the other freshmen on their caseload all throughout the year. And those meetings usually take place during our collaboration time.
Great stuff.
And I tried to
I
work
wanted
in there the question about college planning with counselors that starts freshman year. I mean, I know they talk about kind of a 4-year plan, and we're a college prep school. At this point, I can't speak to exactly what the counselors will cover when it comes to college planning, particularly in those freshman year level meetings.
I wanted to mention that we will have Amanda Smith, who is our director of the counseling department. She will be on the first session on Thursday and can dive deeper into counseling and what the offering is in counseling and speak to the individual things. So those are great questions. I highly recommend hopping on for there. She knows everything about counseling inside and out and can speak in depth to all those wonderful layers. We have one here. Will there be contract PE if fall sports get started later in the quarter?
Boy, that is a really good question.
That's a great question.
I don't know. We've been kind of working on our fall planning with the expectation that fall sports were going to be starting in some capacity to allow for contract PE, but that's a contingency that we have to look into. So I don't have an answer for that question yet. I'm going to try to flag that one and make sure that comes up in some of our ongoing conversations.
That's good. And contract PE being if you're playing a sport, you can contract out of a PE course. That was a great question.
Not the health component of the course, but yes.
The PE component. And we have one here. Do honors classes qualify for UC credits?
Well, that's a tricky question because they qualify for UC. So all of our classes with the H, the honors designation or the AP designation, will receive an honors. They'll receive an honors grade point bump when the UC recalculates their GPA if they're applying to a UC. Honors classes don't, and AP classes don't automatically on their own qualify at all for any kind of credit if you enroll at a UC. However, AP courses, if a student takes an AP course and then passes the end of year AP exam, they are then eligible for college credit at any number of schools. And the UC system applies those credits differently to different departments. But UC typically, if I'm remembering correctly, UC will at least take the credits as kind of like general credits, and so they can contribute to a student's standing when they first enroll. So a student can enroll with more credits in the bank, but not necessarily applied towards GEs and things. So that question about UC credit, I'm just trying to hit both prongs on that particular question, which is that our honors designated and AP designated classes will earn a UC grade point bump. Our Excel classes will not. And then there is a potential to receive credit when you enroll at a particular college if you successfully pass an AP exam in a particular subject. Are dates set for summer challenge testing? Yes, that has already transpired.
Yes, summer challenge testing has already happened. So if more questions, I'd be more than happy, Jonah, to answer them and take that offline if we want to ask more about that. Elizabeth, are there any questions offline that we have that came in?
There are. I'll just start by sharing and reminding all of our families that our Staying Connected weekly email is going to have a pretty robust amount of information about our safe return to school. Academics always is on the forefront of that. So our website and our email communications are always a great point of reference. And we're going to take a lot of these questions as well. Colin and his team will work to make sure we put a frequently asked question page up where the Welcome Class of 2024 area of the website is. But I did get one question, probably from a student, Colin.
Okay.
You use the word flex period a lot. What is that?
Sure. So a flex period is a student's period where he does not have an academic class assigned to him, or he is not enrolled in an academic class. And what that usually means is that's kind of like a study hall period where he can choose from a couple of different locations on campus, kind of set up shop and take a break, and then dive in on completing homework, studying for a test, or working on some ongoing project. Students need to kind of report to a particular spot on campus for those flex periods. This year, our reopening protocols for COVID are gonna require that we kind of rethink a little bit of the actual flexibility of the flex period. But the name flex comes from the fact that it means that a student can choose one day to go to the Harris Center cafeteria and work, or the next day to go to the library and work. And he doesn't need to necessarily report to the same kind of empty classroom and sit in a desk for a study hall. Instead, he has kind of some choice about where on campus to spend that otherwise open period.
Awesome. Here's another good one about how many classes do we have a day? That's got to be coming from a student, the block scheduling throughout the week.
Yep. So with our modified block schedule, students have, there's all periods meet on Mondays, all 7 periods, of which a student would usually have 6 or 7 classes. And then throughout the week, we would alternate odd and even days. So periods 1, 3, 5, and 7 would meet on the odd days, and 2, 4, 6 would meet on the even days for longer periods. So on the all days, classes meet for 45 minutes, and then odd and even days, students would meet with their teachers for 80-minute blocks. So, I mean, the answer is it varies. It varies depending on where your flex period falls in your schedule. So aside from those all days, though, 3 or 4 per day.
Great. I had one more for you, Colin.
Sure.
This person is not in Marauder Seminar, so they're asking, are all of my classes assigning work that I need to be doing now before school starts? And if so, where do I look?
Sure. There is only one. Well, let me double check that. I haven't looked at it in a little bit. So there is there's a summer reading assignments page on the school website. Which, Elizabeth, is that on the rotator at the bottom? I can't remember offhand.
Yep, it's on. If we always take it in a variety of spots, just search engine it, summer reading, and we'll also make sure it's on the Welcome Class of 2024 message page.
For this school year, there's an amendment to our usual process for summer reading for freshmen. We've recommended or encourage the students to read the summer reading book, which is called The Rock and the River. But because of the uncertainty of the start of school, the uncertainty of a brand new environment, and a little bit of the kind of the content of this particular book, we wanted to make sure that students and teachers were feeling like they were giving the book its full due. And then also building community and relationship with each other and learning to kind of work through a text together. So it will be the official first book in the fall. Students are welcome to read it before they come to class, but English 1 will not be assessing on their summer reading The Rock and the River when they start. And there's a blurb about this on the school website on the summer reading, and then an email also went out about that fact. The only difference is if a student is enrolled into English 1 XL, there's a separate summer reading assignment for Life of Pi. And then if anyone challenged into Spanish 2 XL, there's an assignment for that class. But no other classes have any summer assignments or work expected for students when they come.
Great stuff. We have a couple more here.
Sure.
Let's take a couple more before, there are just so many great questions. With classes being released at the end of July, is that enough time for us to buy books for our sons? Margie is going to be on Friday.
On Friday,
I know Margie Wagner, who does a lot with books and getting books. Yes, well, I mean, the students will get their books, whether it's, we'll talk about whether getting it in a digital format or getting your books in our technology session on Friday. But is there any other insight to that?
No, I mean, that is the unfortunate Yeah, that is a potential unfortunate ramification of the textbook thing. If Margie, who runs the whole textbook show, like an absolute pro, if she finds that there are some real bottlenecks in supply or in folks' ability to get their books, we'll have to be flexible with that. There's just no other way around that.
And then this is a good, is PowerSchool and email the only ways you communicate with students and parents?
Face to face, man.
Yeah, face to face, maybe a phone
Remember
call. And Zoom's now in our repertoire.
Zoom, yeah, Zoom is added to the repertoire. This is like I said, this is a first Zoom webinar for me. So the answer to that question is those are the primary ways. There are also, we have phone abilities, phone calling abilities when we're on campus. But email is the primary line of communication, especially for teachers.
And Google Classroom as well, Colin?
Google, yeah, that was the other thing that I was going to say. Google Classroom is the primary way that students and teachers will interact. So, when your son gets up and running with his Google Classroom in his different classes, ask him to show you what that looks like, because that's the primary platform for students and teachers, posting work and sharing work and turning things in and receiving feedback in that kind of way. So those are, I would say, PowerSchool, email, and Google Classroom are the big three. Although Google Classroom generates pretty much everything as email too, so it's kind of covered in that a little bit.
And also, especially for our parents, but our students get this as well, there is always a weekly email. Every single week, it might be a holiday message when we're on break, but usually on Thursdays, all parents, current students, our faculty and staff all receive an email communication. So those are always great resources. If you're looking for things in the news and a little more social engagement and also alumni happenings, social media is big for our school. And the website really does serve as a portal. Usually everything we put out on email, aside from teacher assignments, we repeat in some way or another on the website too. So it's always able to be found.
Okay.
Great stuff. We have one here. I just took the English challenge test today and I'm working on the summer readings. When will I know if I need to do the Excel requirement? I would say there's always time.
I would say tomorrow. I received an email that someone did that today, so I'll be looking at that tomorrow. And then I would say you would hear if it were resulting in a change, if you were being added to Excel. So yeah, that would be.
And the Life of Pi is a great book.
It is a fantastic book. Everyone should read it.
Everyone should read it.
The only people who have to turn in work for it are the students in 1Excel.
That's great.
There is a question up, Matthew, someone is asking, I'm trying to get into the website with my portal login to view the calendar. So I'll share with you that our website is public. If you've tried to log in on the intranet or on one of the tools, that's the back of the house for faculty and staff. Our calendar right now is got some limited dates published. We were really waiting to get through this week and next before we start populating a more robust calendar. But that's always available to view without a password. It is public, and right on the homepage, you will see the calendar. You will also notice, especially if you're on mobile, when you join and get on our website, it asks if you're a student or a parent. We try and pull some of those most popular areas of the website into a little pod portal just for students, just for parents. It's not something different. We just kind of bring those frequently asked pages to the top of the bucket list for you to have quick reference. So hopefully that answers, and if not, please reach out to us directly and we'll help you walk through.
Great. Colin, we are at our time. If you don't mind sticking around for a little bit, we got a couple more questions. Is that okay?
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
One from Angie. We had some technical difficulties with our challenge test. Is it possible to retake? I'd say that was a question better offline. If you wanted to, email Margie Wagner or Colin, I think that would be a good one to ask there. Angie, and we have one from Tommy. Does the school have an app? And if it does, should I have it on my phone? I can speak to, we do have a sports app. We do have with all of our sports teams and the games that they're playing. I know that they work on that, but we do not have an app, right, Elizabeth? We don't have an app. We just have a website. Great website.
Our website is mobile friendly, so you can access it and it's formatted. I know Ginny, our digital manager, is on here too. We have the Jesuit SAC app that focuses on athletics, but you will also notice, because you're going to frequently use PowerSchool, that is an app you can download so you can access your PowerSchool. And then your teachers will help you walk through how to use your mobile device with Google Docs and your Google Classroom and those types of interfaces. But we don't have something separate. We just make sure that our communications we use all work well on mobile. And Ginny, if I'm not saying it correctly, feel free to jump in. All right, I think we're good.
Good stuff. And then this one, but does he have to read the other book, or will he be reading it during the start of semester? My son is listening.
This is the same parent who asked about the English 1 XL reading.
Yes.
So no, the English 1 XL class will not be working with The Rock and the River in the same way the English 1 will.
Great stuff. So, but the life of Pi for the XL class is a summer reading that needs.
That is a summer reading expectation. Yep.
But the Rock and the River is recommended, suggested, and will be done through there. That being said, it looks like we're at the end of our questions. Everybody really appreciate. Let me come back on. Start my video so I can get back on here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate it. Day 2, some great questions. If you have any more questions, like all of these events, you've met some great people, some people that your son will get to know over the course of their time of 4 years at Jesuit. Great resources and great questions. In closing, another great day. Day 3 is tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll be hearing from our Dean of Students in session 1. He'll be speaking. I know you guys had some great questions about dress code and the such. And then session 2 will be athletics with our athletic director, Hank Weinberger. And I believe we will get another glimpse at the in-classroom live broadcast and the cameras that we showed in the first session. I know that was something that people were excited about. So all of that being said, it's 7:19. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Colin, thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody else being here. Enjoy your evening, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
All right, thanks.
Bye, guys.
Go Big Red. Thanks, guys.
Go Big Red.